directionally challenged hiker here at Casa Grande Mountain. A local place to get some training in, some easy hikes in. I am putting in at the Hermit Trailhead today. But anyway, I'm not really here to talk about Casa Grande Mountain today, but I'm here to talk about my recent Grand Canyon hike that my husband and I took. Actually, we should be driving home from Grand Canyon this morning. Our hike should have ended yesterday morning, but that didn't happen. Well, I guess I will just start at the beginning. I did a May-June hike with a group of women, and we got home, and he had done the Hermit hike with me last September and was like, no, I'm not going back. And he's like, well, you know what? I want to see more of the falls. You know, the Hermit Falls are, I mean, not huge, but there's some pretty cool stuff. And I'd gotten up a little bit farther than we had last September. So he was like, I'll go like late July or early August because, you know, maybe they'll be flowing a little more since, you know, Arizona, we're in our monsoon season right now, and we've actually been getting some rain. So I put in for a permit, and, you know, after filling out some extra information, because, okay, when you apply for a hot weather permit, June, July, August, they come with great warning due to the extreme temperatures that the inner canyon can hit. And so yeah, we filled out our extra information, and my permit came like hiker insisted upon itinerary. Our first night was also to be at Hermit Rapids, which is near 10 miles, and the rangers backcountry office don't like to just give permits out like that. They warn you because it's a long ways, it's a strenuous hike, and it was the end of July. So we got our permit. It was to begin Monday night, July 26th. Our itinerary was to be at Hermit Rapids, and then the 27th and 28th we were to be in Hermit Camp. So yeah, we were to be at Hermit Camp for 2 nights, and then due to the heat, we were planning on hanging out Thursday during the day, and as the sun dropped below the canyon walls, we were going to do night hike Thursday night. And I had a room booked at Bright Angel Lodge on the rim for us for Friday night. We would be driving home. We might be getting ready to head out now, depending on how motivated we were to get home. But anyway, we planned, I mean, we stalked the weather sites. You know, we were watching it because, like I said, we've actually been getting some monsoon, some rain. Temperatures were looking like they're going to be upper 90s, a little bit more humid than I prefer, but we weren't seeing any 105s, no 110s. You know, the weather looked, for the end of July, it was going to be spectacular. So, and we did plan, like, we were going to hike, the major hiking other than exploring was going to be done mostly in the dark. You know, we just didn't want to be out in the heat on the trail with all our gear and, you know, putting ourselves at risk. So the plan was we were to drive up Sunday after church. On Sunday, he does a guitar lesson at church, and that went longer than we anticipated. And then we had to actually drive back home instead of leaving from there because he didn't want to leave guitars and computer and, you know, equipment in the Jeep on the rim. So we drove back home. I don't know, we hit there about 3 or so, and all our gear was ready. And we're getting ready to put it up into the Jeep. And I remembered that I had cracked my hip belt. My little hip belt clip had cracked sometime on my June hike, I think. And I contacted Osprey, and they quickly sent a replacement that, instead of putting on my backpack like I should have, I put it somewhere where I wouldn't lose it and I could deal with it later. Yeah, procrastination, not good. So I scrambled around, wasted probably almost 30 minutes looking for that little hip belt piece. And hip belt buckle. Why can't I remember that right now? So finally I gave up. I'm like, you know what? If it comes down to it, I will just duct tape this hip belt, you know, tight. As I was getting ready to, you know, unclip the buckle, you know, the cracked one, so that I could pull the backpack over me and carry it out to my Jeep, I realized that I had put the new buckle on the extra length of hip belt strap. So I changed that out. We loaded up. It was probably around 4 p.m. when we started driving, which we have, I call it a 5-hour drive. That includes filling the Jeep up with gas and getting some food in Flagstaff. So once we were on the road, traffic was good, making good time. I think we got to our campsite. Yeah, I had campsites because you can't just park anywhere, even if you're going to sleep for a few hours. They frown upon that and think you can get in trouble for it. So I'd gotten us a campsite that we were just going to like crash on the picnic table, sleep in the Jeep, whatever. We hit that about 9 o'clock at night. And yeah, if you've never tried to sleep in the front seat of a Jeep, don't. It is incredibly uncomfortable. Neither one of us got a whole lot of sleep. So yeah, we were just hoping to get like a decent nap so that we could start hiking midnight or so. So a little after 12, we're both like, okay, yeah, we're done trying to sleep. We changed into our hiking clothes and, made sure everything, last minute things were ready. And we headed out of Mather Campground and drove to the Hermit Trailhead, which is actually kind of cool, even though it was dark, because normally you can't just drive up Hermit Road. It is closed to regular vehicles unless you have a permit to hike from that point. Then you're allowed to drive up Hermit Road and you can park at the trailhead. So we did that, and we hit parking lot just before 1. He filled up his water there. I already had my water in my pack, and by 1:05 a.m. Monday morning, at this point, we were starting down Hermit Trail. It was dark. Yes, we had planned on this. We each had a decent headlight, backup batteries, also flashlights. I am fairly familiar with the Hermit Trail. This was my 5th, I'd have to count, but I've been down it, about 5 times at this point. He was down it with me last September, so we kind of had an idea what we were getting into. And again, the weather was looking good. We're gonna have most of our hike done before the sun was upon us. And yeah, so we started down the trail, and there's been some recent flooding, heavy rains and stuff, so the first bit of the trail wasn't too bad, but you could definitely tell that the water had flowed. We took a break. Where did we take a break? We took a break on the Hermit Trail where you can, if you keep going right, you're going to be on the Hermit. If you follow it more towards the left, kind of like a little a V in the trail, you'd be heading towards Dripping Springs or Boucher. So we wanted to go right, but we took a little break there, and then we made it to Santa Maria Spring, which is, it's about 2.2 miles in. Sweet little spot. And yeah, it's still dark. That first stretch took us, we were moving probably maybe a mile an hour on that first stretch, because it was, you know, it was really dark, and it's steep, not an even trail. We continued on. We passed Lookout Point, and we're making, I mean, pretty good time. I am not a fast hiker, backpacker. My husband is really not a backpacker. He was just, you know, gonna go with me, wanted to see those falls, and he was willing to, you know, put himself through some pain again for this. So, you know, I'm thinking we were supposed to hit Hermit Camp probably around 7 o'clock. We were making good time for us. I was happy. We're going along. It's now daylight. You know, it's like, I don't need the headlamps anymore. We're approaching Breezy Point, which Breezy Point is, according to the map, about 5.5 miles down the Hermit Trail. It is just before the Cathedral Stairs, and then some white switchbacks, which are the last big drops of the trail. So, you know, you're hitting that, means we've got about 3 miles to go to Hermit Camp, where we can get good water and then meander on down to Hermit Rapids. Just before Breezy Point, you know, it's daylight, nice flat easy stretch of the trail. He takes a tumble. Neither one of us know what caused it. He went down and, you know, tried to roll it, you know, land on his backpack. And yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was kind of scary. We were not in an area where he could have gone really over the edge, but still, it's scary. Somehow in that tumble, he injured his left foot. Like, he felt it when he went down, and there's no video footage of it or anything. You know, we weren't planning on that. And he's laying there, you know, slips off his pack, gets himself sitting up. He's like, I'm done. I'm like, okay. So at almost 5.5 miles in, with probably less than 3 miles to go, our venture down to Hermit Rapids and the Falls of Hermit Creek was over. And we had the task, the overwhelming you know, we had to get out of there. The sun was now coming up. We were still mostly in the shadows, lots of shade. That part of the hike, if you are kind of tucked in where you do, even in full daylight, you will catch some shade there. But, you know, it was going to be warming up, and we had to turn around and head back. So our first goal was, okay, let's see if he can even move, which he could move. It hurt. He was definitely limping. We had planned enough water to get us to Hermit Creek. So it was going to be 3.5 miles back to Santa Maria Spring for us. We had no idea how long that was going to take. All right, some time frame here. We hit just before Breezy Spring and the tumble. It was about 5:30 a.m. and we were about 4.5 hours into our hike. So we've been hiking for 4.5 hours, which would put it at, like I said, 5:30 in the morning. Now we had to turn around and we had to hike out that 5.5 miles on very little sleep and with a injured foot. Yeah, I mean, I guess our plan was when we had hauled into Hermit area, we were gonna take like a nap before it got warm, you know, like just crash. And now we had to turn around and really move, knowing it was gonna take longer than it was gonna take us to get to Hermit Camp. So yeah, we turn around and he's limping. Our water was, you know, we were okay. We did have the option. We do have Santa Maria Spring. I have never taken water from it before. My son's friend did one hike, so we know it's probably not choice water, but it's good water. It's there, and there was plenty of it. So, you know, worst case scenario, if he was running low or I was starting to run low, which I think I was pretty good, I was gonna go ahead and get water and bring it back if we needed to. So we kind of, you know, we're limping our way to Santa Maria Spring about 5:30 in the morning, give or take, probably 5:45 when we actually, you know, got moving again after assessing damages. And yeah, we just kind of took our time getting there. I've got some, probably can get you some screenshots from my Garmin watch of like our path on the trail. We took plenty of breaks along the way because it really hurt him to like put pressure on the ball of his foot. So he was trying to, you know, land on his heel, which is very difficult when you're climbing. And so we took frequent breaks, moved slow. We did take a pretty long stop at Lookout Point, and I kind of scrambled around a little bit looking because there's actually a route from there that you can get down to Hermit Creek, which I've read about. And I just, you know, I was wasting some time. So, you know, we continued on and we finally made it to Santa Maria Spring at 11 a.m., which, okay, that sounds early, but it took us approximately 5.5 hours to go about 3 miles. Not great. At this point, both of us are, you know, we've been on the trail since 1 a.m. We've been officially awake since 12, you know, when we started driving to the trailhead and get ready. We probably got about 2 hours of sleep. So that may be where we messed up a little. Maybe we're a little bit more tired than we thought, but I mean, like I said, we planned, we prepared as best we could. You know, we were hiking, avoiding the heat of the day, and things went downhill quickly. So we make Santa Maria Spring and there's water. It's like, okay, I'll get water going. And Santa Maria Spring is actually, like I said, a really sweet little area about 2.2 miles down. Perfect for a day hike if that's what you're into or want to do. There's a little like shelter, 3 walls, roof. In that shelter is a bench, pretty long bench, and a like wooden rocker, like, but it's like double wide, triple, you know, you could fit 3 people on it if you wanted to. So we're gonna crash, you know, we're trying to take naps there. We ate something, he laid down, put his foot up, you know, just, you know, rested, trying to see if we could get some sleep and decide how we were going to finish getting ourselves out, as we had some of the steepest trail facing us in a little over half a mile from there. So, you know, I filtered water, and just another learning thing on this hike. Been using the Sawyer Mini, and I don't know if it was getting time to need a new filter or if my filter really didn't like the water from Santa Maria Spring, but it was plugging up bad. It got us enough water. That's all I can say is it got us enough water, and then it was dying. So yeah, people, make sure your filter is in good shape, because that could have been, it could have made life more difficult for us. Probably should have, thinking back on it now, probably should have strained the water from Santa Maria through like a bandana or something, because it did have, when I backwashed it, there's some green stuff, like that green stuff was plugging the filter pretty badly. But anyway, I got us water. He might have slept maybe 2 hours. I don't know. I mean, we just like, we rested. I think I slept for about an hour. So I'm still pretty tired at this point. I will say God gave us some awesome clouds. I mean, the cloud cover was consistent. It was amazing. It really helped us, because it never got crazy hot. And even though it was, you know, it was humid, it was hot, but we had very little direct sunlight on us, even though it was, you know, we're hanging out at Santa Maria Spring in the middle of the day. So about 4:30 we decided to move on. Neither one of us had slept enough to think we could make it all the way out, because we had no idea how long that was going to take. Like I said, 5.5 hours to do about 3 miles, just over 3 miles, from just before Breezy Point to Santa Maria Spring. And it's not easy trail there, but it doesn't crazy climb that stretch we had done in that time frame. So our plan was, we're going to make where Hermit intersects Waldron. There is a beautiful little meadow area. Yes, I will admit it is off permit, but I don't think either one of us could have hiked that last, I think it's like 1.5 miles from that point out that evening. We were tired. He was in pain. So, and I wanted to say, we left Santa Maria Spring about 4:30, give or take. It took us almost an hour, maybe a little longer, to go that half mile. I ended up until this point, I'd been kind of tailing him, staying right with him. Just, there was that concern, you know, since he was limping, you know, what happens if he, you know, went down again or something. I was just, yeah. I was stressing. I will admit it, I was stressing. But I went ahead with just a little ways to go, dumped my pack, came back, grabbed his just for that little bit so he could finish, and we set up camp. I think it was about 7:30 when we crawled in the tent, called it pretty much a night. He did do some time lapse there, which I will use for this video, since you guys really don't want to see video of CG Mountain when I'm talking about the Grand Canyon, but I think more and can speak better when I'm moving for some reason. So that's why I'm doing this. I'm getting a little bit of workout at the same time. But anyway, yeah, he took some time lapse. I do have a few photos, not very many, as the early part of our hike down, before things went crazy, it was dark. And yeah, so there's not the photos that I normally take, but he did get us some time-lapse photos from when we were at that little meadow area by Waldron. So yeah, it took us about half an hour to get there. And we ate dinner, set up camp. Probably slept better than I normally do in a tent on an air mattress. I was completely done in. So yeah, that was Monday. We got a decent night's sleep. It did rain at some point. Oh, another point. Okay, I pointed out the lack of, filter. Make sure your filter is, ready to go and not on its last leg. Also, we had prepared for sleeping basically at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, and we were now at 5,000 feet. I was a little cool. I mean, I wasn't gonna freeze to death or anything, but you know, when you plan, you know, maybe you don't want to carry that extra weight, but make sure you are prepared if you end up where you're not supposed to be, or maybe the weather drops or does something crazy. Because I mean, we'd gone ultra lightweight for sleeping, and I was a little cool, but it wasn't bad. I mean, just a heads up, just something to think about. You know, think about these things, because you never know when something's gonna go nuts. So I was fairly out, I guess, and he woke up around 5 in the morning. He's like, so what's the plan for the day? I'm like, okay. I'm like, you're gonna get yourself, you know, get your stuff ready, what you absolutely have to take. And I said, I'll deal with camp, because I mean, crawling around trying to, you know, not bang your foot taking a tent down and stuff, no. So he got himself some breakfast and got on the trail, wanting to say about 5:40. And then I packed up our air mattresses, the tent, you know. I didn't move super fast. I hit the trail about 40 minutes after he did, and I caught up to him in just under 20 minutes. And he was doing pretty good. So we talked about it, because, you know, they're like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead. He's like, go ahead. So I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead, and then I will come back, you know. So I went on ahead. It took me an hour, 5 minutes or so to make it to the trailhead in my Jeep. So again, it's 1.3 miles, give or take, from where we were at to the trailhead, but it is, I want to say, 1,000 foot or 1,100 foot climb. 1,100 feet, yeah. It's an intense climb there, and the trail there's some steep parts, there's some, you know, tilty trail. It's not easy. So I dumped my pack, slammed about half a bottle of Diet Coke, make sure I'm well hydrated, grabbed the 1.25 liter of tea that I hadn't touched on the way up, my poles, and I headed back down with just, you know, poles, bottle of tea. And I met him, he had you know, a little bit less than a half mile down the trail. I ran back into him, and I took his pack, which, you know, his pack was pretty light at that point, but just trying to make it easier. It's quite funny, because my husband is like 6'4", and I'm 5'5", so his pack is ginormous on me. You know, it's like the bottom part of the pack wants to come down, like, you know, when you get those big hoodies and they come down and they cover your butt and keep your butt warm. That's kind of what his pack tries to do. So I cinched up the hip belt as much as I could to try to keep it at least close to my hips. And we, you know, finished up our hike. Got to the trailhead, I'm not sure what time. Looking back at some of the things I took from my watch and stuff, it took approximately 3 hours for him to do that, like 1.5 miles. So it took a while. And yeah, we got to the Jeep. He took his boots off, put on his sandals, and yeah, we made the drive down Hermit Road. We had, like I said, you know, we were planning on being back at the Rim on Friday, so I had a reservation for Friday night at the Bright Angel Lodge. I went in and I'm like, do you have any? She's like, we have one room left. So we got a room at the lodge. Not as nice as the one I had booked originally, but it was cheaper, and it was a room for the night with a, you know, hot shower and a bed. I wasn't ready to drive home that day. Probably should have, but I wasn't. So yeah, and we drove around a little bit, killed some time till we could get into our room, trying to keep him off the foot. That, you know, I do have a picture of it that he took after we got out. I will include that. He might let me take another picture of it now. And drove home Thursday, and he did not want to go to the ER. So we got an appointment at the urgent care the next morning, and they checked it out. Said he needed x-rays, but their x-ray machine was broken. So they sent us somewhere else to get x-rays. So he had x-rays done on Thursday, and they were supposed to be read Thursday afternoon or Friday. It is now Saturday, and we have, oh, I don't know, maybe he has. We have not heard results on those x-rays. We are not sure if it is broken. Like I said, I will post the picture. You know, you can judge for yourself, but it is pretty swollen, black and blue, you know, base of his toes. Again, I mean, we have no idea how that happened, just falling. I mean, but he made it out. My not a real backpacker husband made it out on a pretty busted up foot. I mean, okay, maybe it's not broken, but it is spraying, it is tweaked. You know, we will hopefully find out today what exactly is up with it, but yes, he got himself out. I would have struggled. I would have been ditching the contents of my backpack to pull that one off. I just know it. But yeah, we made it out. We didn't make it to Hermit Falls. We didn't get to explore. But I guess when I think about it, it is not a fail. You know, we had to turn around, but we got ourselves out. Both of us are, you know, we're alive. It's probably minor injury compared to a lot of things, but, you know, having said and rambled on for 30 plus minutes now, you know, just try and be prepared. Be as prepared as you can be, but also realize that things can and will go wrong. And you're gonna have to deal with it. I mean, I've learned something on every hike. But yeah, I mean, we made it out. You know, we did not need assistance. Yes, I know we were off permit. I know it was not a legal site. Sorry, I don't want to do that. I'm not telling anybody to do that, but I don't think either one of us could have finished that night without risking something else going wrong. I mean, it was just, yeah, we were done. We were tired. It was intense. It was crazy. But anyway, I'm not sure how this is going to be. Hopefully this is okay, because I just plan on using this footage and using time lapse and the few photos I got to make a video out of this. So anyway, for now, directionally challenged hiker. Until next time.